All right. So you mentioned earlier about some you've seen with the gambling a little bit, the Courtyard IO and some of the other stuff that's going on about. You also mentioned about people spending crazy amount of money and going a little overboard. I want to talk about the negative aspects sometime of collecting because I've heard some wild stories, and I know you've seen not just collectors but other YouTubers who just like are going really overboard on stuff, and they don't ever seem to sell anything ever. But what are your some opinions on that?
Yeah, I find it hard to really like distill down how I really think about it. And I'd be curious to hear what you think as well. Like on the one hand, like I think, hey, companies got to do what they got to do to like sell comic books and survive, right? So they are doing the blind bag thing. They're doing mystery boxes. We got pack rips. You know, we're trying to adapt card collecting uh, things into comic books because clearly card collecting is huge and those things work and all that. Um, so I'm sympathetic to that in them needing to survive, but at the same time, I think if we're really looking at it from above, like we know what we're doing. Like, is this the most pure best thing for the collector to have to like kind of get put into this gambling mechanic and pack rip and mystery box? Like, no. Is this like the most satisfying like way to experience a hobby? Like, of course not. But what is the vision quote? A thing isn't beautiful because it lasts. Like, this is just
Right.
like the machine that is the ever evolving collectible space. So yeah, I'm torn on it from that aspect. Um, and then from like the individual aspect and people like doing it, like yeah, I'm a little bit. I mean, I'm nobody's parent, so people can do whatever they want, but at the same time, like there's definitely people making bad decisions. Like there
Oh,
are for
yeah.
sure making people like if you have too many people that really get burned, and some people will get burned, like those are the people you lose forever. And if you want like a healthy comic ecosystem and people participating in it and it's a fun hobby, like you can't keep like churning and burning like people and getting them disinterested in it. Otherwise, like it's gonna go away. So yeah, those are
Right.
kind of my like top level thoughts. I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, I'm with you in the fact that I'm never gonna tell someone they can't make a dollar, right? Like that's your job. Like you got to make money to survive in this world. But at the same time, like gambling is gambling, and we all do it. I enjoy it from time to time. I've never done it on comic books or cards or pack breaks and shit like that. I'm not into you know, the Beast War stuff or whatever it's called, the pack breaks, the rips or whatever the hell you want to call it. But like I gotta say, like the amount of people who can't control themselves is what I worry about. Like if everyone
Yeah.
could control themselves and they could buy a couple of these things and then move on, great. I think it's all great, but the way the world is, no one has self control, and that's what I worry about. You talked a little bit about, you know, people taking advantage of. And I remember in 2021 and 2022, just like you do, about people paying ridiculous prices for comics because they were just going up and up and up and up, and it didn't stop. And we lost a lot of people who kind of lost a ton of money, and they just said, "Forget this. I'm out of the hobby. I'm not doing this anymore." And they were really burnt by it. But and it feels like it's a new way of just going about that and getting money and just throwing caution to the wind. But does it fall, like you said, does it fall on the company? Or does it fall on the collector themselves for making a bad decision?
No, I was gonna say, well, there's no like, there's no one to regulate it, right? There's no like, um, government that's going to come in. Like if this were gambling, you'd figure out like, okay, what's the line of like a company that wants to create a capitalistic business, and how much agency and responsibility lies on the people that decide to do it. And then like there's a level in which you probably need to step in and come up with
Yeah.
some guardrails. But yeah, I think in comic books it's hard to say. And really it's like people just gotta figure it out for themselves for the most part. But maybe it's easy for me to say because I think that I'm somebody that like is pretty good, like not being addicted to these types of things. Like, I don't know about you, but like I'm not really like even that into like stuff. Like I don't really like having too much stuff. Like I
I'm
love
with
comic
you.
books. And I know it's funny to say, because I have like, things and all this, but like, I went to like San Diego Comic-Con recently and you just like get stuff and it's like I got like pins and little stickers and I'm like, I don't want this. Like I'm not somebody who like likes to have a lot of the tchotchke stuff. And so anyways, I bring that up because like I'm not as I feel like I don't fall into the pitfalls of like having to like always buy the drop or the mystery thing or the whatever. And I think a lot of people do, are, addicted to that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know. I think that those people just got to figure it out for themselves for the most part. But
I feel like
yeah,
even going to buy like variants now are like gambling. I feel like that's what it is. People who are
yeah,
flipping comics, going in and buying those things. It's the same thing, really. You're buying, at a low price, trying to flip it and then get money out of it. It's the same thing. It's gambling in a different format. So just like the
totally.
card space with the pack rips, that shit's here to stay. That's not going anywhere. So
Yeah.
my thing though is with the cards down the line, some of those cards could be, stay, highly valuable. It doesn't seem that way with comics. I feel like some of these things just they write them up and then they just fall to the ground. They just crash. So that's where I think the bigger issue becomes is that people hold on to these things. They're buying these things, the new hot thing of the week, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, forget it. They're left with pennies on the dollar. So that's where I'm like, you know, I feel it. You know, I don't want to say it's our thing to kind of prevent this from happening because it's not. But at the same time, like that's why I don't collect variants. That's why I don't, collect some of these rip things, these new special things, because I see that for what it is. And now some people may like that. They like the excitement. They like to gamble. I'm not going to stop you. But at the same time, like I've seen so much stuff, like recently on Instagram, especially about how a wife and a husband got into financial trouble because of all the stuff that the wife was buying. Just unbelievable. They ended up getting divorced now. So I'm like, I wonder out there how many people out there are just spending over their means on all this stuff.
I think it's probably a lot. I feel
Yeah.
like you can see it, like in the Pokemon content. I feel like there's a lot of more of those stories that surface of like people going overboard, but it's any collectible. Like there's it's everywhere. So I don't know. Like shout out to our retailer friends who are watching this stuff, and they live in this space, so they don't want to. It benefits them to have people buying things, and so yeah, I just don't know where the line is, especially with my own what I decided to do with like my content. Cause like I'll still just like cover stuff. Cause to me, it's like, okay, hey, blind bags are coming out. Here's news. Let's talk about it. And I don't always put in my own personal, like, I
Spin.
might make a snide comment, but I don't always like say, hey, I'm doing this or I'm doing that. But I think if people are watching me, like anytime I do an unboxing, it's not blind bags that I'm unboxing. So I
Yeah.
think where I stand with it, where it's like, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's how do you determine if someone just likes it? If they just whatever they just want to buy West Coast Avengers 35 right now, and if it's $5 a week from now, or a month after this airs, like whatever, they're just happy that they had it at the time when it was relevant. I don't know. I don't know how many
Yeah.
people like that exist.
I don't know either, but I also don't understand how. I mean, I can understand from a newer collector's point of view, but if you've been in this hobby for more than 2 years, I'm going to say I think you could pick up, kind of what goes on, even if it's the past 2 years. Let's call it like you've seen what's been going on. Have you been paying attention to, prices and books and whatever? So, but with that said, you said something there that you kind of made me think of something about the people who are still buying and they're still buying. And I feel like they have to buy something or they get like that itch, that addiction itch, and they just feel like they have to buy something. I feel like that's also something as well. Have you noticed that as well? I find a lot of YouTubers do that. I feel like there's a unboxing every week and it doesn't stop. And it's like they have to do it because they need it. And they're almost like hoarders.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that, and that was like kind of tying it back to just even like doing the video. I think I was just like, if you like it and you enjoy it, then great. Like
Yeah.
if you're fine, then great. But at the same time, I don't know. I think just checking in with yourself, like, why do you always have to? Do you always need to buy this thing? Is it always fun every single week? Um, and maybe there's something behind that. I can't diagnose it, but like I feel like, yeah, for some people, there's that itch, like you said, or that addiction, and then I'd be curious, like, well, what's behind that? You know, like
Mhm.
let's go up the ladder a little further. Like, okay, well, what's behind that? You know, and then what's deeper than that? What's higher than that? You know, and where does this really stem from? You know, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of what um, you know, I think is maybe good for people to sort of check in with, you know, and find out for themselves.
Well, I think it ties back to what we started the conversation about like the void and, the sense of being, and maybe, it makes them feel better about themselves. They forget about everything else that's going on. And it gives them a sense of purpose. I hate to say that like that, but that's the best way to put it. Maybe it gives them a sense of purpose that they can go out and buy something and put it on their shelf and be like, I got this. And then that kind of sits there for a couple of days and they get that itch again where it's like, I need more self-fulfillment, and they do it again. That's what I really think it is. I mean, to keep
Yeah.
going out and spending money and spending money and spending money and spending money. That's my biggest fear in life, is that I'm going to run out of money and I'm not going to be able to survive. I'm not going to be able to pay for my house. I'm not going to be able to pay for my medical bills when I get older, if I get older. But I've let go a lot of stuff in my collection. I had so much stuff, and we talked about, like, you don't like having things around. Like, I'm with you. Like, I don't like having shit everywhere. I'm a very, like, perfectionist when it comes to certain things. So, like, just having this, it's still a lot, but everything in this room is tied to me as a child and things that I've always enjoyed. So
Yeah.
everything that I don't have anymore, that I got rid of, doesn't pertain to that. It doesn't, fit with that narrative anymore. And that's why I stopped.
Yeah, I'm definitely like a Marie Kondo type of collector here. Like, you know, if you know her whole thing, like, yeah,
Yeah.
every comic I still have needs to spark joy, you know, and if it doesn't, it's got to go. Like, it's out, you know. So, uh, and that's always like kind of like a revolving door, you know, with me. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's interesting.
If you'd like to become a sponsor here on the Mighty Rewind podcast, make sure you reach out at the Mighty Rewind podcast at gmail.com.